All right, folks, gather around because even with a bit of a cold, I'm not missing the chance to dive into everything happening in the Celtic universe right now. There's loads to get through today, from results on the pitch to behind the scenes, shifts in the league structure to transfer speculation heating up as the window ticks down. Buckle in, we're going full steam ahead. Let's start off with the B team. Celtic B were back in action last night in the Lowland League, and it was a wild one after opening the season with a solid win over Broxburn Athletic at the weekend. They followed it up with a thrilling 3-3 draw away to Civil Service Strollers. What's mad about it is all 6 goals came in the second half. So you've got to imagine it was a bit of a sleepy first 45 and then complete chaos after the break. Thomas Hatton, or Tam as the lads call him, bagged a brace on young Emmanuel. Obiday chipped in with one of his own. That puts us on 4 points from a possible 6 to start the campaign. Not bad at all for Stephen McManus and his side. Now there's been an interesting update from the SFA that could shake things up. For the B team going forward, it's a bit niche but still important. Starting next season, the Lowland League is going to be split geographically, east and west. That means rather than one big league covering everything below the Highland League, we'll now have 3 separate leagues at Tier 5 of Scottish football. It makes sense, honestly. There are far more teams down here than up north, and traveling across the country every other weekend just isn't practical, especially at that level. So if Celtic B stay in the setup next season, they'll be part of the Lowland League West. It won't change the competition drastically, but it might lighten the load in terms of travel and add some more local rivalries, which always spices things up. Now shifting gears to Europe, the Champions League qualifiers are rolling on and the playoff picture is starting to take shape. 5 ties were settled last night, and while Celtic weren't involved directly, the results still impact who we might face down the road. For starters, the Kazakh side Kairat knocked out Finnish outfit QPS. And no, that's not cups like I thought. For a second, Dynamo Minsk took care of Hamrun Spartans, Slovan Bratislava beat Zrinski Copenhagen, eased past Drida and Red Star Belgrade, or Crvena Zvezda to be proper. Got the better of Lincoln Red Imps. That means a few more names come off the board for the playoff round, and we now know for certain that both Basel and Sturm Graz will be unseeded in Monday's draw. And yes, that's definitely unseeded potential opponents. A contradiction maybe, but you get the idea. These ties narrow the field a bit more, and we're getting closer to knowing exactly who Celtic could be drawn against. Malmo and Lech. Poznan are now confirmed off the table, which is a shame if you were hoping for a clash between Celtic and our own Luis Palma's former side. That wee narrative's out the window. 7 more ties are still to be decided tonight, so by this time, tomorrow we'll have the full picture. There are a few tough teams left in the mix, no doubt, but you got to back Celtic to handle their business. Even with all the drama around transfers, there's enough quality in this squad to get us through the playoff and into the group stages. Speaking of transfers, let's get into it. Starting with Marco Tilio, the latest word coming from the Austrian press is that Celtic are stalling on letting him leave for Rapid Vienna. The reason Brendan Rodgers doesn't want to lose a winger until we've got another one through the door. Makes sense, really. With the depth already thin in the wide areas, you'd be daft to ship someone out without a replacement lined up. The Austrian reports are hinting that Rapid might move on to other targets if the delay drags out, but even if they do, the feeling is that Tilio will still leave eventually. It's not necessarily that he's in Brendan's plans, more that we can't afford to be down to 3 wingers when the season's about to kick off. Tilio Young, James Forrest, and Dyson Maeda. That's your lot right now. And that's thin. Realistically, if any one of them picks up a knock, we're looking at serious problems out wide. So you totally get why Celtic are holding on to Tilio a bit longer. And even Yang, now that's an interesting one. Reports from down south say Norwich City have backed away from pursuing him. Legia Warsaw are still in the picture, but Brendan's gone on record saying he understands if Yang's a bit unsettled. He's not a regular starter, and that can take its toll mentally. But Rodgers also believes there's a player in there, someone who can still offer Celtic something, especially when surrounded by more established talent. From the outside, it looks like Yang stays for now, and honestly, I think that's the right call. He's not nailed on for the starting 11, but he adds depth and you need options over a long season. Now onto Jacob Broom, the Danish midfielder from Go Ahead Eagles. There's been no real movement there, but we are hearing more and more about how much the Dutch club want for him. Their general manager Jan Willem van Dop has been chatting on Dutch telly again. and he's not shy about why they're holding, out for around 7 million euros. Basically, they're looking at Ruben van Bommel, who moved to PSV for 15 million, and thinking, why not us? According to them, Broom's in the same conversation quality-wise, so why not shoot high? The thing is, go ahead, Eagles' record sale until now is 4 million. So this would be a massive deal for them. But it also shows how the market has inflated. 5 years ago, a player like Broom would have cost 3 million quid. Tops. Now we're talking double that. But if Celtic want him, and by all accounts, we do, then at some point you've just got to pay the price. We've already had 3 bids turned down. Time to make a decision. What's curious though is the position. Broom's been listed as a winger in some places, but make no mistake, he's a number 10, a central midfielder. He's played out wide a few times, mainly on the left, but everything about his profile says he's built for the middle. So why? Are Celtic chasing a central attacking midfielder when we already look stacked in that department? McGregor, Bernardo, O'Reilly, Hatade, Home, Iwata. That's a strong midfield group. Are we preparing for someone to leave? Is there an injury we're not hearing about? Or maybe the thinking is Broom can be molded into something else. Either way, doesn't quite add up, and that uncertainty is a bit of a theme this summer. Another name that's gone quiet is Michelange Balikwisha. A few weeks ago, he looked like a real possibility, but the trail's gone cold. Belgian media haven't said a word about him in nearly 3 days, and for a transfer that was supposedly imminent, that silence is deafening. Seems like that one's fizzled out. Again, he was mainly a left winger, and that brings us to a big concern, the right wing. Right now, that's arguably Celtic's biggest problem area. We've lost Lee Labada, who was a regular starter last season. And while James Forrest is a legend and still has something to offer, he can't be expected to start every week at this stage of his career. Since Abada left, there hasn't really been much noise about a proper replacement. Jacob Broom isn't the right winger despite what some have claimed. And those early links to Isak Jansson evaporated after he signed for Nice. So, where are the right wingers, Celtic? It's not like we don't have the budget. We've clearly been willing to spend decent money, 6-7 million, for the right player. But time is ticking and the need is urgent. One more name still being talked about is Louis Munteanu, the Romanian striker from CFR Cluj. This is one that's been doing the rounds heavily in the Romanian press. The fees, the sticking point here. Cluj won around 15 million. Celtic's last bid was just under 7. That's a big gap, but it's not insurmountable. With the right negotiation, that number could come down to around 11 or 12, and at that price, I'd be pulling the trigger. Munteanu's goal record speaks for itself, and he's got the physicality and instincts to step in right away. We've lacked a true number 9 who can be a focal point. Kyogo's brilliant, but he plays a different style. Add Munteanu to this squad, and suddenly the attack looks a whole lot more dangerous. There's also been a bit of movement on the defensive front, particularly with young Jamai Simpson-Pusey from Manchester City. Now, here's a lad who's ready to take the next step. He's outgrown academy football, and City have made it clear. They're happy to loan him out for first-team experience. Reports suggest Celtic are ahead of a few championship clubs in the race, and with the connection we've had with City over the years, you'd like to think that gives us an edge. Now, before we all get carried away hoping for a purchase clause, let's be realistic. Manchester City don't let their talents go for cheap. Even the ones who've barely made a senior appearance tend to go for 15-20 million pounds. So if Simpson-Pusey does arrive, it'll almost certainly be a straight loan. And while that's not ideal long term, he's got the potential to slot straight into the starting 11 and form a proper partnership with Cameron Carter-Vickers. It's a move that could strengthen us immediately, and that's what we need, right? Now, we've also seen some whispers about Stefan Bajcetic from Liverpool, but I wouldn't get too excited about that one. There's been a lot of chatter online, but nothing concrete. No reliable sources linking him to Celtic. Feels more like one of those rumors that snowballs out of nowhere and suddenly everyone's talking about it. Until someone credible says otherwise, I'd file that under unlikely. And as always, the clock is ticking. The Scottish transfer window closes on the 1st of September at 7 in the evening, a bit earlier than usual. Makes sense, really. There's no need for midnight deadlines anymore, but that's the cutoff. And for Champions League registration, the important deadline is the 14th of August at 11 p.m, unless we want to sneak in 2 extra players the night before the first leg. Either way, the time for dithering is over. The business end of the window is here, and Celtic have got decisions to make. So let's keep going because honestly, there's no slowing down this summer with Celtic. The club standing on the edge of what could be a very important season, not just domestically, but in Europe too. And every single move in the transfer window is under the microscope right now. And the frustration bubbling among the fans' eyes real. And it's valid. Look, this squad isn't miles away from being complete, but it's in a fragile state. All it takes is a couple of injuries or one key departure and suddenly we're scrambling. And with the Champions League playoff just around the corner, there's really no room left for "we're working on it" or "there's still time." We're not in the first week of July anymore. It's nearly August. The first big games are days away, and Celtic, despite being in a strong financial position, are still light in 3 or 4 crucial areas. Let's talk centre-backs, because that's another one where we're skating on thin ice. Right now, you've got Cameron Carter-Vickers as your rock. Beyond him, things are far less certain. Mike Nawrocki has shown glimpses, but struggled with injuries. Stephen Welsh has battled for consistency and fitness. Gustav Lagerbielke has fallen completely out of favor, and it seems like a matter of when, not if, he leaves. And then there's Liam Scales. Reliable in patches, sure, but not someone you're counting on in a Champions League knockout tie, are you? So when you look at the idea of bringing in Jamai Simpson-Pusey on loan, it makes a lot of sense. He's quick, strong, reads the game well. The kind of modern center-half that can handle a high line and distribute under pressure. The one thing he's lacking is experience, but that's where playing alongside someone like Carter-Vickers becomes invaluable. It gives the lad a chance to grow while giving Celtic much-needed depth. And the fact that he's hungry for first-team football means you're not just getting a body to fill a shirt. You're getting someone with something to prove. That kind of hunger matters, but of course, even if that loan gets done, we're still talking short-term solutions. And Celtic have been down this road before, haven't we? A revolving door of loanies, always starting over the next season. So at some point, we've got to shift from patching holes to building foundations. Whether that means committing real money to a long-term partner for Carter-Vickers or putting faith in someone like Nawrocki to take the next step, it needs clarity. And then there's the other end of the pitch, striker. Right now, we've got Kyogo and Oh Hyung-yu with maybe a handful of minutes from Maeda if pushed. Kyogo, we all know what he brings. The movement, the energy, the goals. He's class. But he's also a very specific type of striker. He thrives in systems built around his strengths. Quick interplay through balls runners. When teams sit deep or when the physical side ramps up, he's not always as effective. That's why the Munteanu links make so much sense. The Romanian has that physical presence, but he's not just a battering ram. He's mobile smart and knows where the goal is. And Celtic desperately need that type of option. Not to replace Kyogo, but to complement him. To give us different shapes for different opponents. Imagine being able to bring Montano on when things are tight, when defenses are camped deep and crosses are flying in. Right now, O doesn't offer that same presence. He's strong but raw, inconsistent. With the amount of matches coming up, Champions League, domestic cups, there's more than enough room for 3 quality strikers. But only 2 are currently in the squad. And if the club are truly serious about Munteanu, they'll go back with a better bid and get the deal done. Because waiting until deadline day for a position that's been short for months, that's just poor planning. On the wings, well, we already covered how bad things are. And the right wing especially is crying out for someone who can come in and make that shirt theirs. The kind of player who adds pace, directness, a bit of flair. Someone who forces defenders. Back who opens space for others, who changes games. Right now, there's no one in the squad who does that from the right. James Forrest has the experience, but let's be honest, like, he's not that player anymore. Yang might develop into that guy, but he's not ready just yet. So where's the urgency? Where's the signing that makes you sit up and go, right, that's business done properly? And that brings us to something deeper, a question of vision. Because this summer more than most has exposed a bit of confusion behind the scenes. There's money in the bank. There's Champions League football on the horizon. There's a manager in Brendan Rodgers who came back to win. So why then does it feel like we're still waiting for the transfer strategy to catch up to the ambition? Every window we hear the same thing. It's a difficult market. And that's true. Clubs are paying inflated prices. Agents are driving up wages. And it's hard to find value. But other clubs manage it. Clubs smaller than Celtic, clubs with fewer resources, they identify their needs, act early, and land. Targets. Meanwhile, we're 3 weeks from the group stage and still without a proper right winger, still short at the back, and still lacking depth in key areas. And you've got to wonder, what's going on behind the scenes? Are the recruitment team and the manager on the same page? Is the board willing to back Brendan the way they should? Or are we once again doing things halfway, chasing targets, failing to close deals, and then settling for plan B or plan C when time's running out? That's not good enough for a club of Celtic stature. We've got the pull, the wages, the facilities, the fan base, everything a player could want. And yet time after time, we end up locked in a battle with mid-table clubs across Europe for lads who frankly should be biting our hand off to come here. Take Broom again, for example. Celtic have bid multiple times. The lad's clearly interested. The club wants him. So why haven't we just got it over the line if the Eagles want $7 million and you think he's the guy, then pay the money? Because waiting around opens the door for someone else. Clubs in Belgium, the Netherlands, even the Championship down south, they'll swoop in and do the business while we're still haggling over payment structure. Same goes for Munteanu. If Cluj are being greedy, fair enough, negotiate. But if the price is within reason and the player's keen, there's no excuse not to move. Because the longer we delay, the more desperate we get. And desperation leads to mistakes, panic buys, loans that don't make sense, gaps that never get filled. And yet this isn't doom and gloom. Far from it. Because the bones of a very good Celtic side are there. You've got a spine with Joe Hart, though even that's up for debate with his contract winding down. Carter, Vickers, McGregor, O'Reilly, Kyogo. That's strong. You've got emerging talent in Home, in Rocco Vada, in Bosun Lawal. You've got experience depth in some areas and real quality when it all clicks. But it needs topping up. You can't go into a Champions League playoff with only 2 strikers, 3 wingers, and a defense that's still being patched together. And you certainly can't expect to challenge in Europe or dominate domestically when the squad feels 2 or 3 injuries away from disaster. Brendan Rodgers knows this. You can see it in how he talks about the window. Always calm, but always pushing the line that more is needed. And to be fair, he's not demanding superstars. He just wants players who can come in and compete, who raise the level, who give him options. And this is the key. Celtic's model, for better or worse, has been to buy young, develop, and sell. For profit. Fair enough. Oh, that's the modern game. But to do that well, you've got to act fast, scout smart, and strike before the value balloons. Broom, Munteanu, even someone like Simpson, Pusey, they all fit the model. But only if you move early. Only if you show the ambition to match the potential. Because let's face it, this window is going to define the season. Not just in terms of silverware, but in terms of the message Celtic send to the fans, to the rest of the league, to Europe. Are we serious about progress, or are we content just ticking boxes and hoping it all comes together? There's still time to answer that, but not much. And just a quick word on the registration deadlines for Europe, because they're crucial. If Celtic want to have new signings available for the Champions League playoff, the first key date is the 14th of August at 11 p.m. That's when the main squad list needs to be submitted. Now there's some wiggle room. Clubs are allowed to add 2 more players up until the night before the first leg. But ideally, the business gets done before that. It's one thing signing a player, it's another getting them settled, trained, and ready to go in Europe, especially if they're coming from a different league or haven't played competitive matches yet. And then there's the domestic deadline. 1st of September, 7 p.m. No late night madness this time. No midnight signings or deals rushed through on dodgy Wi-Fi. It's a clean cutoff, and that means there's really no excuse for dithering. Celtic know the areas that need strengthening. They've known for weeks. Now it's about doing the work. Pulling the trigger, backing the manager. Because if we get this right, we're in for a big season. The chance to make a mark in Europe. To dominate at home. To play the kind of football we all want to see. But if we don't, if we stumble through the window patching holes and leaving key spots bare, then it's going to be a long, frustrating year. And the thing is, this club is too big for that. The fans demand more. Brendan demands more. And if the board are serious about ambition, now's the time to prove it. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a storm brewing in Scottish football. And it's no ordinary drizzle. It's a full-blown downpour of speculation, disbelief, and for some, a quietly building sense of anticipation. Word on the terraces whispered in pubs from Glasgow's East End to the farthest reaches of the Highlands is that young prodigy Lennon Miller has agreed terms with Celtic Football Club. Ah, you read that right. Lennon Miller, the jewel of Motherwell, the lad tipped by many to be the next great Scottish midfield dynamo, could be pulling on the green and white hoops. Now, before anyone gets ahead of themselves, let's be clear. There's no official statement, no social media unveil, no flashy photo of him holding a scarf above his head at Celtic Park. Not yet, anyway. But sources close to the situation, ones who've proven accurate in the past, are murmuring that the deal is done. Closed, signed. All that's left, it seems, is the unveiling. If true, this is nothing short of seismic. Lennon Miller is just 18, but his name's been echoing through Scottish football circles since he was barely out of school trousers. A cultured midfielder with an engine that never tires and a brain that reads the game a second ahead of everyone else on the pitch. He doesn't just play football, he sees it, manipulates it, bends it to his rhythm. For Motherwell, he's been the beating heart, the spark that turned moments into matches and matches into headlines. So why the shock? Because no one saw this coming. Celtic have been no strangers to signing young Scottish talent, but Miller always seemed different. And there was talk of England, of the Bundesliga, of scouts from Serie A noting his every move. He was a lad with Europe at his feet, so the idea of him staying in Scotland, let alone making the move to one of its giants, felt almost counter to the narrative that had been building around him. And yet here we are with talk growing louder. By the hour that he's chosen Celtic, some say it's a dream move. Others whisper about their influence of family. After all, there's history there. The name Lennon isn't accidental, and his father, Lee Miller, knows the ins and outs of the Scottish game like the back of his hand. Could it be that Lennon sees the move as the next logical step in his development? A chance to play European football, to train under a manager known for shaping youth, and to thrive in front of 60,000 every other week. But it's not all excitement. In some quarters, there's a sense of unease. For Motherwell fans, the news, if true, feels like a gut punch. Losing a talent like Miller is always painful, but losing him to Celtic? That's a different kind of sting. There's also the question of money. How much would a move like this cost? And what does it say about the current state of competition? In the Scottish Premiership, when one of its brightest lights jumps to the league's dominant force before even hitting his 20s? Still, for Celtic, this could be a masterstroke. They've been on the hunt for long-term midfield reinforcement, and while the current squad boasts depth and experience, the future needs building now. Miller fits that mold. Young, hungry, Scottish, and already proven in the top flight. A lad who won't shy away from the weight of the shirt or the pressure of expectation. Of course, there are those who caution against getting carried away. Deals have collapsed before, and until the paperwork's dry and the cameras flash, anything can happen. But the whispers are persistent. The people who know say it's done. And the silence from both clubs? Well, that's often the loudest confirmation of all. For now, we wait, we speculate, we wonder. Has Celtic just pulled off the most stunning domestic signing in recent memory? Has Lennon Miller turned down the glamour of foreign shores to light up Parkhead? Time will tell. But if the rumors hold true, the entire landscape of Scottish football might just have shifted. Quietly, dramatically, and perhaps inevitably. Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.